Okay, so welcome to our eighth webinar. My name is Greg Bull. I'm a business improvement consultant, leadership management coach. I'm joined today by Phil on the chat box and other members of the Coxswain Alliance team. And if you have any comments or questions, please, hello Celia, please enter those in. And Phil or someone will endeavour to answer those as best we can, ideally during the session. If not, then it'll give us something to take away to talk about moving into the future. Today we have a presentation on, I guess, what are the emerging trends coming out of the COVID-19 crisis. What that means for organisations in terms of adapting the way we work, and particularly around about innovating what we do. I think the change has meant that things are changing quite rapidly. I think we need to be very agile, and I think companies, organisations are making very rapid decisions and changes and innovating on the way. And so we'll look at what that means and what innovation means. Is it purely about systems and processes, or is it just it might simply be about the way that we do things, the way we have to change the way we manage and interact? As part of that innovation and part of moving forward is about being able to, I guess, first stabilise and then grow our organisations moving forward. This presents a wonderful opportunity for businesses to do things differently, to meet changing customer needs, and we'll talk about how we can take advantage of some of that. Hello, Daniel. Good to have you on board. At this very outset, I think people recognise that this will be a sort of a point in time that we'll probably, in years to come, look back on and reflect on the changes that came out of the COVID-19 crisis. Have fundamentally changed the way that we transact and do business. And I think some of the things we're doing now, we will keep doing, and there'll be some things which will change and disappear, that they were purely the result of, I guess, the energy required to get ourselves ready for or make ourselves ready for the crisis and then move forward. So what are the trends? I think, I guess, probably one of the things really driving trends at the moment has been government responses. Governments all around the world have had to really think about their economies, think about their constituents, and had a really internal focus. They've really focused on, I guess, initially protecting their borders, trying to contain the virus, but also they've had a really keen eye on the economic fallout or consequences of COVID-19. And they've put lots of money in terms of stimulus towards their countries. Now, this will really favour local economies moving forward, and scanning the environment and looking at things that are happening. There's clearly a direction that this money will go towards things where government money can have the biggest impact. And so these are industries like healthcare. Obviously, there's been a health crisis, but also I think what it has highlighted is some of the gaps and weaknesses within healthcare systems around the world, and has prompted governments to think about where do we need to direct funding and money to improve that, should this or similar events take place in the future. So there's opportunity in healthcare and in health in particular. Infrastructure projects it's really about stimulating jobs and economies. I think the government's money can be well used at infrastructure spending, and there'll be opportunities there. What COVID-19 has really done, it's really highlighted the reliance many countries have, and Australia being one of those, in external manufacturing, external supply of goods and services. And there'd be a real drive towards reducing that dependency on external suppliers, and a focus back on local manufacturing capability, and how do we improve that? How do we source things locally? Not just products, but also services. There has been in the past a real, I guess, a globalization issues for the world, and now people are thinking much locally. How do we overcome that? And so I think as organisations, as businesses, we need to say, well, what does that mean for us in terms of our business, and how can we take advantage of this real focus back on local suppliers of products and services? Obviously, entertainment and tourism industries have been hit, and government money is going towards that. I think a big one and a big opportunity is small business, and I think we all play a role in that. We are a small business, and there are many large businesses around, and there's also governments. And I think there's an opportunity here to support our local small businesses to help them and think about how can we source our things locally rather than maybe going to some of the bigger, larger brands, and how do we do that, and how do we help stimulate the economy and also those businesses that we work with closely. So, and governments are tuned into that, and we're expecting that in the future that governments will do a lot to stimulate small business within the economy. Health and well-being. What COVID-19 has really made people reevaluate what's important to them. I've watched many news reports, particularly where I see people like the governor of New York and others talking about what isolation has meant for them, what working from home has meant, and how this has created this sort of connectedness and made people realise the importance of their personal health, but also their families and what's important to them. And I think I think this will be more than just a point in time. I think it's a real mindset change with both individuals and also organisations. COVID-19 and its impacts will be with us for some time, as will be things like working from home and the need for organisations to really focus on the well-being of their staff and people, and maintaining that sense of purpose, that sense of connectedness, and the psychological impacts, other than just the physical challenges of COVID and how do we manage that in the workplace, but also how do we manage our people and set systems and mechanisms up in place so that from a psychological perspective, people in this dispersed workforce that we now have still feel connected and that connection back to their organisation. We've also seen in recent times, I guess, this sort of advent of stakeholder capitalism, where the private sector has started to take a much greater social responsibility. Businesses are starting to really articulate clearly that they've got new health and wellbeing policies. There's a greater emphasis on social issues, a greater emphasis on diversity and social justice, and organisations are writing this into their policies. We're seeing things like boycotts of businesses that maybe have taken the wrong stance or have made the wrong comments about things that are happening in the market. And so that really has changed the way that businesses work and what's important for their people, and also for their customers. Are you seen as socially responsible? And that may, in the future, and probably will in the future, drive a lot of the decision making for consumers. And we're seeing that consumer trends and consumer behaviour is changing, and both not just in a business to B2C landscape, but in the B2B landscape as well. The way we are working with and transacting has changed. There's data out there suggesting there has been a 40%, almost doubling of online transactions, and that's no doubt going to increase. People being obviously in isolation, can't get to the shops, can't get out, can't get to their places of work, and so we're doing a lot more online, and it's working. Touchless payments, transacting online, online fulfillment, getting things delivered when we used to go to the shops and those things, and that has changed a lot. What is also done is that people are now much more prepared to switch brands. There's data suggesting that people shopping online are seeing, I guess, a new experience, a broader range of opportunities out there. And whereas those past habits of going to and transacting with the same suppliers, that is changing. And maybe through need or through necessity, is that some suppliers haven't been able to supply, and so we're seeing brand switching. We're also seeing that we're doing things differently. The most obvious one for many of us is telemedicine, is meeting and consulting with your doctor or pharmacist or whoever through an online transaction. Similarly, for gyms, a lot of gyms have been doing online workouts and that sort of thing. So this virtual or video conferencing and linking has changed, and that's really obvious in the B2B space. Is many organisations now are having to get around to the fact that we can no longer do face-to-face sales calls and face-to-face presentations, and so we're having this virtual service delivery. I've been working with a number of clients, and we have a Coxswain for the last 2 or 3 months now, and I've haven't really left home. I've dealt with 2 or 3 clients, and we've been running online meetings, online workshops. We've been doing a consulting service previously that we always did face-to-face in meetings and conference rooms. Occasionally we'd have video conferences, usually doing update presentations, but we've been doing our entire delivery has been virtual online using a number of tech applications, which we'll talk a little bit about it later on in this presentation, and video and that sort of thing. Same with in the sales world is people, I talk to people, and a lot of their used to be a face-to-face meeting with someone is now a face-to-face sales call or video call, and presentations are being done, and so that is changing a lot. There's also, as we talking to a number of suppliers that I know in both consulting, but in tech and in a number of fields, particularly in the tech space, is with the changing landscape is there's a real need to build new capabilities. And so what we're having to do as organizations is there's a lot of capabilities that we don't have that we're having to go outside. And so it could be we need to rapidly upskill our people or change our technology, and we're using external providers to do that. Because for the speed to market piece, there isn't the time or the money, in fact, to put together a team of internal people often to get this stuff done. And so relying on short-term external help and capability to bring in skills that we don't have. And so and I see that's probably going to be a trend moving forward. If you think over the next few years, there's going to be a rapid change, and many things are going to result in the need for organizations to, yes, we've got to focus on our core service delivery for our customers, but we need to be changing the way that we do things. And often that's going to be the case by using external providers to do that. And so that will be a real trend moving forward. Supply chain will no doubt be localized. I think organizations, governments in particular, but also starting to look to how do we source these things locally? We want to stimulate our economy. How do we ensure that our local providers are providing the goods and services that we need? And so, as I mentioned before, increase in local manufacturing, but also increase in local service delivery. Do we really need to go to a big brand multinational to provide this service, or can that service come from a local provider with local knowledge, local content, and how do we help continue to stimulate and build our local economy? So I think the supply chain will definitely be more localized, and a lot of that will be driven by government stimulus and intent to drive and maintain local economies. Remote working is just really the start. We're at the starting point of that. There's data to show that, I guess, pre-COVID-19, around about just over a third of the workforce were willing to work remotely. In recent times, survey data shows that's a much higher number. Now, that may be at the honeymoon effect of people enjoying and liking working from home. And so this number will equilibrate at some point to some a different number. But at the moment, people are working from home and enjoying it. I guess the question that has to be asked, and we'll talk about this in much more detail, is yes, it's working for employees, or some employees, a large number, but how well is it working for us as a business? How well is it working for our customers in terms of our ability to deliver, maintain quality, maintain service, and also and helping our costs? A number of companies, and there's been announcements and I've just named a few here, Facebook, Worley, ING Australia, but many others have openly said that the success of remote working and the way they've been able to transition to it has been such that they're now completely reevaluating their remote working footprint. And many of these organisations see having a far greater reach of a number of employees working remotely for a number of reasons. There's obviously the cost piece, but there's also the talent piece as well. Is in the past, we've particularly there's been a need for people to come to a central office location. So particularly we've been limited by people within the geography that sets up. But moving forward, there's no reason why virtual teams can't be set up within a country of people in much more a broader geography, so in regional areas and that sort of thing. So that the need for people to co-locate is going to be less, and so the talent pool, in theory, will increase, and as will the opportunities moving forward for people that aren't based in cities. It also might even start the trend of people starting to say, well, I don't need to live so close to the city. I don't need to commute. Therefore, maybe I could live somewhere else. Maybe the sea change or the tree change is something that I can do much sooner than I originally planned. So we're calling this it's really a distributed workforce. You're going to have so that the challenge for organisations is going to be, I'm going to have a large number, I'm going to have a population based remotely, some at home, some in the office, and that may be, we might be doing 2 or 3 days a week at home, 1 or 2 days a week at an office. And some people might be permanently office based, and some people might be in a completely different geography or completely different time zones as well. The working day has changed as a result of this. The need for commuting, the need for being in an office between set hours has changed, and we're starting to. We had flexible working before. This will change greatly as well. Is how and when can we change? Will people be available to work, and how does that work for our customers? Before, we were servicing our customers between the hours of, say, 9 and 5. Our customers might prefer us working in the evenings, and so does that work for some of our staff and employees? So the opportunities for flexible workplaces will be greatly expanded. Geographies and time zones also create another challenge, and so thinking about what does that mean for our organisation, and how do we start to handle this distributed workforce, and what's the best way to do that? There's a number of brand names here on this chart, and what we're seeing is the digital revolution, or evolution, if you like, was an evolution. Organisations were gradually adapting and taking on technologies. There was obviously quite a lengthy cycle of using this stuff and testing and what worked for us and what didn't. What we've seen in the last 2 or 3 months is preparedness for people to grab some of these technologies and use them. And it's really become a field trial or field test en masse for many of these things. And you'll know a lot of these brand names on here. And so there's tools for communication. We're using one now. We're running a webinar, and I'm sure we've all been on Zoom and Microsoft Teams and those sorts of things. Cybersecurity, there's been security issues. We've talked about, things like the issues with Zoom around cybersecurity and people sort of doing Zoom bombing. And so how do we, cybersecurity is increasing and will continue to increase. How secure are our networks? Collaboration and work management. These are things that as a consultancy, we've really been, this has been at the forefront of our work, is we've been using applications like Miro and Teams, Zoom, Hangouts, various cloud drives, etc., to do our work. We've also been working with companies like Think Automation, which provide workflow automation software solutions very competitively. And we've also been working with companies like Zarion, who do automated work management. And these applications are starting to change the way that work is managed and organised. So if you think about particularly things like Think Automation and the Zarion work management software, these enable automated workflows and automatic allocation of work and management of work across multiple teams in multiple geographies in multiple time zones. And so these sorts of applications, and I encourage as we head into the future, is what applications best suit our needs. The cloud, as we're seeing, will become more and more prevalent. There'll be less enterprise-wide and enterprise-based solutions where we have huge data centers housed within organizations. The cloud is expanding rapidly, and external cloud-based data storage will happen. There's many cloud software as a service applications now that are now data generation analytics to take place. Automation and robotics. People are exploring. Now we've got remote workers. What do we get? What's the work going to look like? What can we automate? Artificial intelligence, machine learning are continuing to expand and will expand rapidly. The use of things like chatbots. If people are transacting online, use of things like chatbots, using machine learning and automated processes are happening all the time. Data will be a big thing of the future, and how we use that data and how we're using data to analyse what our customers are doing. And so there are data marketplaces that are starting up, and they will become bigger, as well as things like augmented reality. If you think about it, if we're doing a sales presentation or working with a customer, if you're working with a customer, is how can you best talk about and present your products and services, and using things like tools like augmented reality are ways to do that. So these are a lot of the things that are happening. And so I think this is much more of a revolution now than an evolution, and these things will change rapidly, and it will change the way that we do work, and it will change the nature of work, and it will change the way that we transact with our customers. So what are the trends? Doing a bit of a scan in the last few weeks, risk and crisis management technology. So anything that manages your business from end to end, manages your employees, your parts, suppliers, and workflow. Compliance and risk are big parts of our business, and leaving this to chance is something that organisations are no longer able to do, particularly in places like financial services. And so having technology that supports and helps is providing audit trails and getting the right work to the right people and ensuring the right work is done at the right time for our customers is key. Customer experience technology. As customers move away from the face-to-face transaction, chatbots, customer feedback systems are becoming much more prevalent. We're using these technologies to be the first line interface with our customers to make sure that we understand what their needs are. And then we've got software in the background that is actually getting the right work to our employees at the right time in the right place to meet our customers' needs. So rather than your team pulling work from a queue, you'll have automated workflows that says this is the high priority work for our customers at the moment based on the data analysis we've got. We'll use something like a Zarian or a Think Automation or a Blue Prism. These automated processes will send work to people, and that work will happen as it's required, as opposed to now, a lot of the time, we've got people working out of systems and pulling work out of queues. Having technology that knows what your customers need and want, prioritises the work and gets it to people real time will be a big thing of the future. And investigating these technologies, these things are growing rapidly. Zero trust cybersecurity, as we know, we're now on VPNs and those sorts of things, and authentication and getting into networks is problematic, and so methods of authentication and cybersecurity are growing rapidly. We mentioned before, our employee experience is key. If our employees are looked after, their well-being is good, then we'll get much better engagement and we'll get a much better customer experience. And there's a real growth now in recognising that our staff are no longer necessarily always going to be based in the office. So what content platforms do we have? How are we managing our human capital in a way that it improves their experience, improves what they're getting from us as an organisation? How are we meeting their needs in terms of their basic needs, in terms of their development and growth needs, and in terms of their future aspirations? There is technology now that is being used to assist and help the HR departments and managers to be much better at managing their teams. And so these are areas which, moving forward, we need to start thinking about and adapting and innovating to enable us to be able to meet our customers' employees' expectations. So in pulling all this together, I think the key message is that this takes us to is customer behaviours, transaction attitudes will change. They're changing already and they're going to continue to change. Technology will change the nature of work. There'll be less face-to-face work. There'll be a lot more automated work, a lot more virtual work. The workforce is going to be distributed by location and by time zone. And so what technology do we have to support and manage that? At the moment, is it working as well as it could? Are we meeting the needs of our customers as well as we can, given that we've moved to a virtual workforce or distributed workforce very quickly? It's going to have to improve because the customer demands as we come out of COVID aren't going to go away. And those organisations that get this right fastest and move and think about new ways of working sooner and getting help to do that will greatly have a great advantage over those that don't. With this changing workplace, changing customers, changing the way that we do things, the role of leaders and managers is going to change significantly. The technical leaders of the past, those skills will become less and less. It's managers and leaders that can think and manage and engage their teams and people across this distributed workplace are going to be in demand. So great people leaders are the leaders of the future. So how do we develop ourselves and how do we develop our people to enable us to be able to meet those needs? So this is my, I guess in putting this together, this is kind of a vision for the future it may or may not look something like this. We're going to have mobile dispersed customers in both business to business and business to customer workplaces. We're going to be engaging them virtually with a distributed and at times automated and robotic workforce. So think about it in our organizations, that this is what the future would look like. Our customers are going to be all over the place. They're going to be transacting virtually with us. Our staff are going to be all over the place, and customers are sometimes going to be having an automated or robotic transaction, and other times they're going to be having a transaction directly with one of my team. So technology is going to be critical to making this happen, and customers' expectations and employees' expectations are going to be that technology is going to enable them to do that. So both the front of house, how we deal with our customers, but back of house, how does the technology support me as an employee to make sure I'm doing the right work at the right time for my customers' demands? People leaders' role will change. Connectedness to their teams and to their customers is going to be at the forefront. So if I'm a leader and manager of a team, and no matter, and the seniority goes up, is do my people, are they connected, and are they able to connect with our customers, and are we able to meet our customers' needs? And so that will be the mindset of the leader in the future. How do I best engage people so that we meet the needs of our people? Our performance measures will obviously, quality, service and cost are always at the paramount. And I guess initially I think cost is going to be a huge one, but also are we still delivering quality and service? But as you think about this, as the distributed workforce becomes more prevalent, and as employers start to expand their reach in terms of their talent pools, employee wellbeing, health and safety are going to be key. And the decision making as to whether a customer stays with one organisation may simply be the fact that another organisation is managing their virtual or distributed workforce much better. So I think a key performance measures around how is our employee wellbeing, and how well are we looking and engaging our staff, and how do they feel, will be a big part of talent retention, and much more so than it is now, because the choice we have moving forward is going to expand, because the opportunities will expand, because no longer will I have to remain. If I live in Melbourne, I can now work in Sydney. If I work for a Sydney-based company, I can now work for a London-based company potentially, depending on my lifestyle and those things. So the talent pool gets bigger, and we need to be able to meet our employees' needs to be able to do that. So the future of work is very different. The skill set and tools we do that is going to change significantly. And I think thinking about this presentation has been really interesting, because often our projects that we work with have a much shorter time frame. We're really focused on business improvement in the immediate sense, solving an immediate challenge or problem. Thinking about putting this together, what the trends look like and what does it mean for the future, has been quite interesting. And so, but the process behind that doesn't change a great deal. It still comes back to understanding what our customers' needs are. So once again, our customers' needs, what are they? Now they're going to change, and so we need to look at that in terms of, okay, how are people going to handle that? Are our processes set up to do that? And do we have systems in place to do that? So we need to analyse the way that our people's needs are changing. And then, as I said before, a typical project we tend to look at is in the immediate to mid-term. And now there needs to be much longer term focus. So as a leader and a manager, we need to think, okay, in the immediate sense, what is changing? And then, okay, this is changing, so let's get this right now. Let's make sure we've got the basics right. But then what do we need to do next? And then how's that then setting us up for this future vision that we have for our industry or for our organisation? So what do I mean by the immediate sense? It's looking at it's what we've done, where are we at now? Let's review how we came out of the crisis, or how we're coming out of the crisis. And I think we need to recognise a lot of the stuff we did, a lot of our success was driven by, might have been panic. We had to respond very quickly. There's a lot of adrenaline, so people were suddenly thrust into a new environment, and we had to respond. And we've done that really, really well. We've made rapid decisions. And can this be sustained? And I think there's some questions that we've been talking to a number of clients, past and present. And We appear to be more productive, which is good, but that's because the landscape has changed. And now, are we maintaining quality, and are we maintaining service? And often a deeper look suggests actually people are starting to, because we're working dispersed and distributed, and we don't have the same oversight we might have had in the past, is some of the old habits or new habits are starting to form, and we might not always be meeting those quality and service expectations that we once did. Are we more productive, or have we just really had, we're as productive as we were before, but we've just got less distractions and less things happening, and so we actually, we're getting things done better because, because we're now working remotely, we're able to get more done because there's less other things happening. Don't know the answer to this, but is it sustainable, and what do we need to do moving forward? Because if we're more productive, our competitors are going to be more productive, and our customers are going to have higher expectations, and so the continuous improvement cycle continues. So I think what the really good stuff that's come out of this crisis, I think organisations we were probably taking too long to do things, and now we've proven to ourselves we can act very quickly, and we move very quickly, and we've had success. So we need to take the good stuff and keep doing that, and then say what didn't work, and how do we improve on that moving forward. So now's the time to reflect. It's time to say, are we as efficient as we could be, and what do we need to do? So now's the time to look at the way we're working, and this is the current ways of working. How effective is it? So people are dispersed. Are they okay? And do they have what they need to thrive? So we need to start to say, okay, so and then start to think about what the midterm might look like. So this is where we are now, where we're trying to get to, what's working well in terms of our people, how do we need to improve this? Things have changed, so our roles and role clarity is going to change. So now that people are working remotely, we don't have the same level of connectedness we did in the past. Potentially, is what are our expectations? What does good look like in this new world? Our customer expectations have changed, so what do we need to refine in terms of role clarity? Do our existing standards of quality and service and efficiency standards meet requirements for the future? Is what we're doing now going to be able to sustain, and can we to improve that? So we need to rethink what good look like in terms of quality, service, and cost, and how do we improve on those things in this new world? Customer expectations have changed, so our standards will need to change also. We need to evaluate where we're at in terms of those things. Having a distributed workforce means that the culture and that sense of team purpose is a much greater challenge. So how do we maintain and grow and build that sense of purpose? How do we create a culture that really works in this new environment? As I said before, a lot of the adrenaline of the situation and this sort of community and coming together with an organisation has been good. But as that dissipates, as things change, as we fall back into old habits and those things, how do we maintain that sense of connectedness and purpose within our teams? And that's a challenge with our managers. I think the technical managers of the past will find this is a real challenge. I think there needs to be a real focus from organisations to help develop our people skills, and how do we help our frontline and level above managers maintain the culture that we want moving forward. In the past, it might have been much simpler because we're all co-located. This is a much bigger challenge. So how do we help our people do that? Is technology really helping and supporting? We've all spent time on various Zoom applications and whatever else. There's a latency there. There's a delay. Have we overcome that? Data suggests that 55% of employees say that there's room to improve, and there is. We've got to this in a hurry. These systems were there, and they're getting better. But what other systems do we have? It's not just about being able to video conference. It's about what work management software do we have now that I don't have my team close to me. What applications do I have to ensure that my customers' needs and priorities and expectations are met? Is there automated work management software out there that can help us do that? Are my dashboards satisfactory? Is the data analytics I've got helping me make those decisions or not? So I think technology is something that we really need to start exploring the landscape, because the burst workforce means the challenge of leaders and managers to ensure that we're meeting our customers' needs has changed greatly. And so having the tools in place that enable automated workflows to get work quickly to people across multiple geographies and time zones is going to be key. So how do we start to automate those workflows? If we're doing a lot of work through email, what applications do I have? Do I have a Think automation or a Blue Prism robot or something that can enable me to put work into the right inboxes? Is it interfacing with my workflow? So whereas in the past, we tend to pull stuff, using technology to become more efficient in managing our workflow is going to be really, really critical. So the mid to long term we need to start thinking about is for the future. We get set up in place now. The landscape is changing. So are we able to maintain our processes now that we're distributed? Quality and service must not slip. People, well-being, safety is key. The work's going to change. So many people may need to be retrained. If our customers' expectations have changed, if we're doing much more less face-to-face, more virtual conversations, if we're using chatbots, if we're changing workflows, if customers are no longer making phone calls, they're doing more stuff online, then what skill sets need to change? We need to reskill our people, because some transactions we're doing will become less and other transactions will become a lot more. So reskilling and retraining is going to be important. Not just for frontline activities, but also for our managers. I've said a number of times before, it's great people, leaders and managers are going to come to the forefront for, are we doing the right? Are we training the right capabilities and behaviours and practices to manage in this new distributed workforce? And the old ways of managing will need to change. And how well are we setting our people up for that? Do our management systems enable this? So in the past, we had lots of meetings, we did things this way, our operating rhythm and operating model did this. We might not have used technology much at all. We might have used whiteboards, and now do we have virtual whiteboards in place? What's our meeting frequency? So what is our operating rhythm and model, and how does it then match to our changed customer transactions? Are we taking people off the floor to have meetings and video conferences when our customers want them working? So how do we reimagine and rethink the way that we do and work our operating model and rhythm? As we move forward, the operating rhythm you have now in place, the current and the midterm, you need to start to transition to where this future is. And what the future will be changing all the time. So we need to be much more agile in our decision-making and thought processes. We need to be able to pivot and change as needed. We need to have data and analytics to tell us that things are changing, what they're changing to, and so that we can respond. And that data needs to be such that we can make quick decisions. We also need to get good at making decisions with imperfect data. It's amazing how a lot of business transitioned very quickly in 2 to 3 months, and a lot of that was through intuition and imperfect data. And it surprised a lot of businesses that actually that was quite good enough. We don't need a perfect business case. We don't need a perfect model. We don't need this number of decimal places to make a decision. Directionally, the data and information is telling us this. If that's right enough, it will be good enough for purpose, but then we need to be able to pivot and change again and adjust. And so it's a lot like the agile concept, where you test, measure, learn, test, measure, learn. That cycle will need to increase, and that decision-making process needs to increase. We need to create an operating model and rhythm that enables that. Is our technology right for our customer transactions and needs? And is our technology right to bring our people to match those customer needs? So do we have the right applications in place? If we're heavily reliant on communications via email, via messaging, via chatbots, etc., how is that information getting to our staff? Do we have automated workflows in place that enable that to happen? When we do have a queue of work and we do have customer needs, are we able to prioritize the work, and are we able to get that work in an automated sense to our people based on priority, based on skill and skill set, and based on capacity of those people in their work queue? So do I have visibility of my workforce? So now my team is distributed all over the place. Do I know how much work they have on their plate? Do I know what their skills are, and do I know what work is coming in, and do I have a way of getting it to them quickly? Now, in the past, it might have been a conference. We might have had a huddle, we might have had a chat, we might have spoken about that, and we might have agreed which work people are going to pull. There's technology now, and we're working with a provider that enables automated allocation of work based on skill set, based on capacity, based on time zone, based on geography. These softwares even allow work to move between robotics and automated processes to human interface as well. And so these are the sorts of technologies that will help us moving forward. Alongside that is do we have our leaders with those right skills and capabilities in place to enable them to manage in this now technology-based management workflow, but at the same time being able to develop and lead and engage our people. So I guess that's a very brief summary of I guess where we think that the technology is up to. What I'd like you to do is I've got a very quick survey here is looking to the future. I'd like to know more about and think about your own situation, your own work, and you can answer multiple questions, and I'll get the survey to come up in one moment. Is answer these questions, and you can answer more than one. Is what I'd like to know more about managing work across distributed workforce and home-based geography, getting the right work to right at the right time. So is that something that's a challenge for us? Do I like to know more about that? You can answer that, making sure we're able to efficiently, effectively maintain quality, service and cost expectations with our new ways of working. What are the work, communication, collaboration, management technologies that I might be able to use? There's lots of them out there. We're lucky enough to work with many organisations that are using many of these technologies. I've mentioned a few already. There's things like Think Automation, which enables you to automated workflows. It can take team mailboxes and put work into workflows out of your mail. That might be a challenge for you. It enables work to be pulled out of queues and allocated based on skills. We've had a lot of experience working with people, things like Miro, whiteboard collaboration tools, Zoom, and those things. So we can talk to you about that. And then also, once again, is what are the people leadership challenges that we have? So we're curious to know what are the things that are driving our thought process moving forward. And we're getting quite a few responses in. I see that the chat box has been working overtime, and Phil's been doing a great job, I think, in providing commentary and answering some of those questions. So if you could answer these questions, that would be really useful for us. It does help inform us a number of things. Is how do we produce more content for the next webinar in terms of what people are interested in talking about, but also when we're talking to you in the future or to our other clients, is what are the things that are interesting people. So let's have a quick look at those outcomes. So there's quite an even spread here of looking at technology in terms of work processes, communication, and developing people and leadership skills. So thank you all for joining today's webinar. I hope it's been today was designed about provoking some thought around what do we need to do moving forward and how do we start planning for these trends moving ahead. As I said, we work a lot with people. Usually on much more short-term thinking, but now obviously we're helping people on that longer-term planning and thinking as well. So don't hesitate to contact us either at remoteworking@coxswainalliance.com, or alternatively, if you know a number of the team, and I recognise a number of the names here, please reach out to us directly and talk to us about some of our recent experiences we've had, particularly in some of the technology applications that can really help in terms of managing the workflow, managing the work, and managing your teams. Those that have worked with us in the past will know that we do work very closely with people in terms of the behavioural aspect in developing that leadership capability, but also in developing the tools and the dashboards and things to help with that. What we've identified in the last few months is there's many technological tools out there that can greatly assist that. So those Excel spreadsheets of the past can be superseded with things like Zarian Intelligent Workware, for one. It enables work allocation, work management, capacity management, and those sorts of things that's real time. It's a fantastic, really interesting piece of software. Things like Think Automation, which I've spoken about as well. This enables you to build your own workflows very quickly, very easily, doing things like email interrogation, getting the right emails put into workflows for people as they come into your group and shared inboxes. So that's something of real interest as well. Plus many other user-built or user-defined automations which you can do with that as well. We've got experience with things like Miro, which is a collaborative software which I've been using on a number of projects, where it's a giant whiteboard where multiple people, it's like being in a conference room with multiple people, and you're all able to work asynchronously with each other and have a great conversation and chat and those sorts of things within that. And it really does. In fact, I found it's almost better than a face-to-face workshop in many aspects as well, because it does enable people to add multiple comments at one time, and then you can talk about those as a group. So thank you all for joining us. I hope this has been of use. I see we're getting some commentary coming through. Yes, well, thank you, Warwick. Yes, it's been a thought-provoking exercise putting this together. As you start to scan the world as to what's happening, what the trends are, you start to realise that we really are at the threshold of some really major changes, and setting ourselves up to do that, I think, is going to be a real challenge. Thank you, everyone. So it's been thank you, David. Thank you. Just as I said to everyone, thank you again for joining us. Don't hesitate to reach out. We talk about this stuff on a regular basis with our team as to what the trends look like, and there's a lot of information out there, and no one really knows what